to the Wounded Angels Network for another conversation on how one helps wounded angels to fly. Today I want to speak a little bit about soul, S-O-U-L. It's a word that we assume will be part of any psychological or spiritual conversation. And yet, the world around us seems to suggest that at one level we have lost our souls. For example, when in conversation with medical practitioners, hear them speaking about how their whole calling, their whole vocation has lost its soul. From the time of Galen, when healing became an art and later on a science, the whole idea was that medicine was to restore humans to health. And so humanity was first, and then the healing arts, and then the way of making a living. Speak to anybody who's newly graduated out of medical school, and they will tell you how brutalized they feel at the end of their training. They have worked the most ridiculous, almost inhuman hours. They have struggled to finance their studies, quite apart from the struggle to be selected for those studies. And then once they graduate and enter into the healing arts, into medicine, to practicing medicine as that lifelong desire to restore humans to health, they spend most of their time doing administration. They spend a lot of their time being doubted and second-guessed by medical aid insurances. And now, even more latterly, they are being second-guessed by their own patients, who no longer come seeking counsel and insight and the wisdom of the physician, but who now arrive with a folder of Google information where they have Googled all the symptoms and have made a list of what medications are needed, and now simply want a doctor to write a prescription that they can take to the pharmacist. Has the soul departed out of medicine? Some people would say yes. If we move to the realm of banking, another part of our life, I remember a time when there was a bank manager, somebody who you entered into a relationship with, who knew you and your family, and knew your banking details, knew who you were, and who developed a relationship around your finances and your planning. These days, going to a bank is a bit like entering the lottery. You walk in, you get a ticket number. When your number is called, you are told to go to a particular cubicle, and you are assured never ever to sit with the same person on a second or third call. No continuity, no relationship. Has the soul departed from banking? We could boil it right down to a simple thing like buying an appliance. There was a time when you needed a washing machine, a dishwasher, whatever the appliance, even a kettle or a toaster. You would go down to your local appliance supplier, your appliance store. The person who you knew, the person who probably sold your parents their first stove. And you would, in relationship with this person, purchase an article, an appliance, take it home. And if there ever was a problem with the appliance, you would go back to the person who sold it to you, and he would put his best effort into restoring the relationship and making the situation work. Now, if you purchase an appliance, the moment there is any problem with that appliance, you are told not to go back to the person who sold it to you. You are given a number to call, which is probably going to be a call center in a foreign country, And the person, again, who you speak to, you'll never speak to again, and that person will tell you why they can't help you. The soul seems to have departed out of all these encounters that make up our daily life. One has to admit that perhaps soul has even departed from our religious institutions. There was a time centuries ago, maybe millennia ago, when one would go to witness, to be part of a Catholic Mass, which at a certain time in history was the only show in town, but one would attend a Catholic Mass, and from the moment you entered the great cathedral or the local parish church, you would be in awe. The priest would arrive properly dressed, in vestments, surrounded by acolytes, surrounded by a beautiful choir, and in the spirit of mystery and incense and candlelight would offer up this amazing sacrifice which transubstantiated, turned bread into the body of Christ and wine into the blood of Christ, and there would be this participation mystique that would happen in the Catholic Mass. It was an awesome, quite literally, event. When the Reformation came and corrected some of the abuses that had crept in at the time, and the superstitions that had overwhelmed some of the practices that I've just described, even the Reformation and the Reformed Protestant worship, denuded as it was of all imagery and ritual and liturgy, at least offered you that wonderfully crafted sermon that was a triumph of rhetoric and logic, carefully worded, and depending how good the preacher was, would last 20 or 30 minutes. The really bad preachers went long. But the good preachers, the experts at words and exegesis, understanding of scripture, biblical languages, would lift out of the Word of God this phenomenon called the sermon. And you would go away with a substantial insight that would keep you going for the rest of the week until you came back again. Attend a church today, Catholic or Protestant, chances are you are not going to have that mystical, mysterious soul encounter that you would have had previously. There will be a big flat screen TV or projector. There will be a very fancy music ensemble, and you'll have the sense not of entering into mystery, but of entering into an entertainment center. You will not participate, you will observe. Even the sermon, if there is one, will not be able to sustain you for a whole week. It'll be that kind of candy floss, sugar spun candy that is nice to taste for a while, but it'll have you in a slump by Monday. Has the soul departed out of even our Christian worship? Is it possible in the modern world, with all the busyness, with all the glitz, with all the superficiality, for us to encounter soul at all? I think it's quite ironic that one of the big movie music hits from last year, from the remake of A Star Is Born, that hit song is titled Shallow. It's almost a label for the attitude of our time. So I suppose we better ask the question, what is soul? What is it that we're looking for? Because if we don't know what we're looking for, we're not going to find it. Well, the word soul first occurs in Greek philosophy. And it comes from the Greek word psyche, which means, is a descriptor, the description of soul. And that in itself comes from the Greek word psychein, to breathe. So breath was associated with being alive. Soul was that which was almost like the proof of life. In a pre-scientific world, the ancients knew that if you breathed, you lived. And there were all sorts of tests to see if a person in a coma was dead. You would hold up a piece of glass or a piece of metal to the nostrils, and if it steamed up, then you'd know the person is still alive. But if the breath was no longer there, then the person had died. The soul had gone. Which led people then to develop this idea of the immortal soul. A soul that continues beyond death, beyond breathing, beyond breath. At his trial, just before he's forced to drink poison, Socrates tells his fellow Athenians to excel in matters of the soul. Apply yourselves to excelling in matters of the soul, he tells them, and then everything else will follow. If you want to be a good person, says Socrates, attend to your soul. Attend to that life force, the force vital within you, and you will be a good person. From Socrates and Greek philosophy, heavily influencing Judeo-Christian thought, the idea of the immortal soul develops. And Judeo-Christian theology then puts a stop to this wide understanding of anything that lives and breathes has soul, and says, no, only humans have immortal souls. So only a human soul will live on beyond death. And it's interesting, in the first 4 centuries, there is quite a strong body of evidence to say that reincarnation as understood and rebirthing as understood in the Eastern religions was present in Christianity, and then just fell away through the councils of the church that wanted a shorter term kind of outcome, because after all they were selling something, and they needed a quicker reward. So you couldn't get people interested in something that's going to recur again and again, so we'll just have an eternal soul, and then there has to be a reward after this life. No idea of coming back. But the whole idea of rebirthing and reincarnation was present up until about the 4th century. The most important point, though, is that this immortal soul is only confined to humans. Only humans have them. But what we need to remember is, as great a theologian as Thomas Aquinas believed that everything that lived and breathed, every living thing had a soul. It might not be immortal, might not last beyond the life of that particular plant or animal, but they had a soul. They had life. They had this being. So plants have souls, in Aquinas' view. Animals have soul, and humans have immortal souls. So if the soul is the breath, if soul is the awareness, the consciousness, I like the Latin word that Thomas Aquinas would have used, because he would have been working in Latin and not Greek. He wouldn't have spoken about psyche. He would have been speaking about the anima, which of course is where we get our word animation from. So-and-so was really animated today. He was full of soul. Animation, being alive, aware, present, is a function of having anima, soul. So, where does one now go looking for soul? If the soul seems to have departed from the places we expected to find it, in medicine, in our banking life, in our everyday buying of appliances, in our religious life, if soul has departed from there, where is soul to be found? Because it seems that without soul, we cease to be fully human, and we are certainly not animated. We're not fully alive. Well, the good news is that we seem to have come a kind of full circle. If you came back with me now 10,000 years to the place before any of the religions that we know today existed, even before Greek philosophy, the very first of our ancestors, the hominids, Homo sapiens, were in awe of all life around them. And if you go back to first world peoples' religions, such as in Africa, Native Americans, native first world peoples, in any place, there is this reverence for life. You thank the antelope you are about to kill and eat. You give thanks for the crops that come out of the earth, the life-giving earth. The earth itself is a living being with soul. And it fascinates me that certainly in Africa where I live, in my reading and understanding of early religious thought, before the missionaries, before colonization came to Africa, God lived in the earth. Kamata, Nkulunkulu, the great one, or the one beyond all others, Umvulindlela, the one who opens the way. All of these names for God referred to the deity that lived in the earth, where we are buried back into and where our crops come from. In Xhosa culture, when somebody goes to honor the ancestors back in the kraal where the cattle are kept at their hometown, they will brew special sorghum beer for the event, and the foam of the beer will be poured into the earth before it is drunk. The rest is drunk, to honor the ancestors who are there to participate. And then a conversation will occur with those ancestors. Now that's got soul. And in a strange way, we seem to be making a full circle. I grew up being taught that my life was going to be linear. I was going to start here, I was going to do these things, and then I was going to end up here. As I look back on my life now as an older person, I realize my life actually has been quite circular. As T.S. Eliot says, I have come again and again to the place that I've seen before, but each time I see it as if for the first time. T.S. Eliot's line from Little Gidding. To come to the place that you've been before and see it as if for the first time. But you know, each time I come back to that same old stuff, I come back with a little bit more understanding. So it's not quite a circle that's flat, it's almost like a spiral. I come back and I see it again for the first time, but there's a little bit more insight, and so I'm climbing and spiraling up a little bit each time. But it's certainly circular. And the wonderful point for me about soul and our loss of soul in so much of our life is that we seem to be rediscovering soul in the ancient places. Just as our proto-human ancestors were in awe of the rock and the tree and the bird and whatever was living, yes, they were superstitious. We don't want to go back to superstition and the place where there are curses and dark things, spells that can be put upon people. We don't want to go back there. We can't. We are scientific people. But in a strange form of reverse engineering, we can go back through our science now, back to really being impressed and in awe of life. And I want to spell life in capitals, L-I-F-E, capital, 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 just like we used to spell God, G-O-D. I would now suggest we might even replace the one word with the other, because I'm not sure we can talk about God anymore. It seems to be such a meaningless concept in our scientific world. But we can talk about life in the same way we spoke about God. Life, we'll just take Genesis 1 for example. In the beginning, life created the heavens and the earth. Wow, that works. And life said, let there be light, and there was, that works. And so we come back to this mystery and understanding of soul if we would just look at life around us. We might not find it in medicine, we might not find it in banking, we might not find it in all our consumer goods and appliances, we might not even find it in formal religion. You want to find soul, pay attention to everything that is alive around you. It may be too late, because it seems, if we look at the groans of Mother Earth, the spirit of Gaia that lives in the earth, Mother Nature, we're in trouble. We're in deep trouble. But it's not too late, I believe. If we would want to go back and look for soul, it will reawaken in us the very thing that our ancestors had that kept them honoring life as it appeared, and not raping and pillaging life to create some kind of fake, unsustainable life. James Hillman, a Jungian psychiatrist, has got a wonderful, wonderful definition of soul in his, what he calls archetypal psychology, the psychology of archetypes. He describes soul as a self-sustaining and imagining substrate, something that holds us, that almost like the breath. And then he says, quote, "That which makes meaning possible deepens events into experiences, is communicated in love, and has a religious concern." Can I say that again? Soul is that which makes meaning possible, deepens just events into real experiences, and is communicated in love, and has a religious concern. Soul is still with us, maybe not where we expect to find it, but it is there in the reality of life when we observe it and participate in it. So as we conclude, I would really encourage all of us, as I encourage myself, to take care of your soul. And as you do that, take care of the soul of all that is alive around us. We may not have much time left to rescue soul from oblivion. Thank you again for your attention. It's been lovely to be with you and speak about these things. If you'd like to speak to me one-on-one, face-to-face, please don't hesitate to contact me at the email address at the end of this video, and we can Skype from anywhere in the world, or Zoom. We can have a conversation, and I look forward to that. Thank you so much for your attention.